The room was tense, the stakes enormous. The world watched closely as President Donald Trump, seated beside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, looked squarely into the eyes of the press and made it clear, his patience with Vladimir Putin had run thin. This wasn't just another exchange of pleasantries between world leaders. This was a moment weighted with urgency, a flashpoint shaped by blood, bombs, and broken diplomacy. "I'm not happy with President Putin," Trump said. "Not anymore. Not after Ukraine endured its heaviest drone bombardment yet. Not after families were forced underground, after buildings shook, after one life was taken and dozens more were torn apart by shrapnel and fire in the heart of Kyiv. They're getting hit very hard now," Trump repeated, as if saying it more than once would make the world understand the scale of destruction, the weight of responsibility, the price of hesitation. He didn't hide the stakes. He didn't offer ambiguity. "We're going to have to send more weapons," he declared. Defensive weapons, primarily. This wasn't theoretical. This wasn't future tense. This was now. For months, the Trump administration had walked the tightrope, pressuring allies, prodding negotiators, chasing a diplomatic breakthrough that never came. They had spoken to Moscow, spoken to Kyiv, spoken behind closed doors in rooms laced with history and hostility. But diplomacy had failed. The calls had ended. The missiles had resumed. And now, Trump had run out of illusions. Just days earlier, the Pentagon had announced a pause, a review of U.S. military stockpiles, a recalibration of what could be spared and when. It was bureaucracy trying to keep up with a battlefield. But on July 7, Trump made clear, that pause was over. "We're going to send some more weapons, we have to," he said. It wasn't a matter of choice. It was a matter of conscience. Ukraine needed to defend itself. And the United States, in Trump's view, had a duty to help make that possible. This wasn't just about strategy. It was about survival. This wasn't about politics. It was about principle. Sitting next to Netanyahu, a man familiar with the perils of regional warfare, of existential threats and relentless enemies, Trump appeared not just as a politician, but as a man who had seen the cost of inaction. And he had spoken to Putin. He had picked up the phone, once again, to attempt what so many had tried and failed, to reason with the Kremlin. But nothing changed. The drone strikes came anyway. The sky over Kyiv burned anyway. The promises of peace shattered again, not with a speech, but with the hum of a drone and the silence of mourning. Trump didn't pretend otherwise. He didn't sugarcoat the result. He said it clearly: the call did not result in any progress. And behind that statement lay the truth of this war, a truth Ukraine had lived every day, and one that America was now forced to confront again. There was no deal. There was no pause. There was only a sovereign nation under siege. And the question wasn't whether to act, but how quickly. Trump's tone was urgent. His words were forceful. His resolve seemed hardened by the reality on the ground, the failure of negotiations, the price of every delayed shipment. He didn't talk about tanks and jets. He talked about what Ukraine needed most in this moment: defense. Not offense. Not escalation. But the tools to survive. Anti-drone systems. Air defenses. Mobile radars. Armored transport. Ammunition. Fortification equipment. That's what would be shipped. That's what was needed. Because this wasn't about giving Ukraine the means to attack, it was about helping them protect their people, their cities, their children. And the American arsenal, Trump said, would answer that call. There was no mention of timelines, no specifics about delivery schedules or stockpile metrics. But there was a shift. A clear shift from review to response. From analysis to action. Because the images coming out of Kyiv didn't need interpretation. They spoke for themselves. And Trump, for all his political posturing, saw something undeniable in those pictures. He saw a nation under siege. He saw a capital targeted. He saw a message from Russia, and he knew the world was watching America's reply. The message Trump chose to send was this: America will act. The message to Putin was equally clear: your tactics won't go unanswered. The message to Ukraine: you are not alone. Of course, critics will debate the motives. They will parse his words. They will question the timing, the delivery, the scope of aid. But in this moment, one thing was unmistakable: the shift had come. The defensive wall would be raised. The supplies would be moved. The stockpiles, however strained, would be tapped. Because peace had failed, and survival could not wait. President Trump made no promises of victory. He offered no illusions of quick resolution. But he spoke of necessity. He spoke of duty. And in the wake of another brutal strike on Kyiv, with broken glass, broken lives, and broken diplomacy strewn across the city, that duty became clear. The line had been drawn again. Not on a map, but in policy. In resolve. In steel and circuitry. Ukraine would fight. And America, Trump said, would help them defend.